For activity 6, we're going to be assessing developmental levels of catching. So I've included some background information similar to previous activities, and then the instructions for what you're observing in HK Propel are provided here. So I'll switch over to HK Propel. In HK Propel, you'll navigate over to Lab Activity 7.2. And in this, it'll be pretty similar to our past two activities where you have two guided subjects followed by non-guided subjects. So in the guided catcher section, you can play the video and then you can move through the questions which match the observational plan. And that will kind of give you some practice on looking for the different components that add to each developmental sequence. When you click your answers, you can check them to see if you are correct, and then you'll use the steps provided in this guided portion to fill in the record sheet for each of these two catchers. Then, for the non-guided portion, you are going to assess catchers 6, 8, 10, and 12. So 4 catchers total. And similarly, there's a video of normal time and then slow motion. You can navigate through the videos by clicking on the side arrow and then just dragging through. So in the instructions document, you have access to Table 7.1 from the textbook, which outlines the developmental sequence for catching. This pretty closely aligns with what you've been given in the lecture PowerPoint, so you can use either or to kind of help you answer your record sheet categorizations. And then we also have the link to the observation plan for catching, so that's the flowchart. Also kind of chunked images of the flowchart in the PowerPoint, so you can use either resource for that as well. The record sheet looks something like this. So the guided catchers, you're going to put an X in the appropriate steps that are identified in the activity in HK Propel, and then for the non-guided catchers, you'll put the actual number values that match their developmental sequence level in this table. After that, I have a few questions for you guys to answer. So question number 1 is going to ask you to describe the ball trajectory and placement with regards to each catcher's body. So you're looking at the vertical plane, so how high or low is the ball being delivered to the catcher, and then also look at a horizontal plane, as in, is the ball being directly delivered at their body or is it off to the side or whatnot. For question number 2 and 3, you're providing examples of how ball trajectory could have either positively influenced or negatively influenced the catcher's developmental level. You'll use at least one of the catchers in the non-guided portion of the activity to justify your answer or to use as your example. For question number 4, if you were conducting an experiment to log developmental changes in young kids, how might you control for the variability in ball trajectory for each subject? In addition, are there any other modifications to task constraints you would make to the methodology to add to your observations? So this is purely hypothetical, but kind of consider the different task constraints that we talked about in the lecture, as well as some of the environmental constraints, and then think about how you might be able to modify your methodology to control your environment so that you can start identifying or pinpointing changes at more of the perceptual level instead of, so I guess you're isolating individual constraints instead of having confounding influences from other task or environmental constraints. If you guys have any questions while you're doing this activity, let me know.